What's going on? You're listening to the 3 Count Podcast. Make sure you follow them on all their social medias at 3 Count Podcast with the number 3, not the word spelled out. Check out all their interviews and other content. Interviews such as with myself and my partner Jeremy Grimes, Studio 22, and some other lesser ones. Not all their guests are winners, but you watch ours. It was fun. Shout out to my guy Red Dog Cliff.
One. Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man who leads you up this mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, which is what you will refer to me as, you got to find somebody who's been there, done that, and will get up that mountain a lot quicker or show you how to get up there more efficiently. So it's never about me. It's always about my guest. And you see the man right here. He is a part of Fight. He is a part of EWA. He is a part of 1CW. He is the studio man, the producer, the director, the greatest man of all time. You could call him Andino. Give it up for Chris Andino.
Oof. That intro was crazy. That intro was insane. I'm about to fire anytime I see an announcer, I'm just gonna fire them and just grab you. Just on the spot, fire them. You gotta start bringing a suit with you everywhere I go.
You know what's so funny is that if you go back and check out I had Larry Legend on the show, and I did an intro for Larry, and Larry was like, "What?"
He looking at you. He about to stab you like you taking everything I worked for.
I was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "That guy is light years."
Oh, no, he is bad. I have not had the privilege yet, but I'm too aware of how good he is.
Oh yeah.
One day.
Yeah, I can't wait. One day he's gonna announce me in, and I'm gonna be like, "It's Larry."
It's gonna be lit, right? There's certain dudes where it's or just people in general where it's you want certain things to happen. Larry's announcing me is definitely up there. Usually I interrupt people introducing me. I wouldn't interrupt him. I'd let him have it. Just
I would come blaring out of the back, skip the whole ring thing, just sit in front, cross leg style, and just stand right in front of
observe it, just take it all in.
Announce me in.
Yeah, announce me. Tell them where I'm from, my weight, my name. Do the whole thing. Take your time.
Yo, actually, it's funny, man, because we had you on previously, right? So it actually been a year ago that we had you on when you were with Studio 22, and since then we've kind of gone through all these growths and changes and stuff like that. So,
right,
man, I gotta ask first, one, I'm gonna ask you straight up, who is Chris Andino?
Chris Andino is a boy that was put in a man's body very, 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 very spontaneously. I was actually born at the age of 13. I don't believe my mother when she says that she conceived me, because there's video evidence of only 2 births, and that is my little brother and my older sister. Mine's isn't there. But somehow I look exactly like my father, and even though my sister's 4 years older than me, we look like twins. My little brother literally is living my teenage life all over again. I am convinced that I am an alien that has been brought here to be a performer, because I am massively obsessed with wrestling, even though I can dissect all the things wrong with it, but I still want to do it. So I'm convinced that I was born at 14 because I am an alien, and 13 to 0, I was actually in a tube being created like Superboy. Has to be true. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last interview I do, because the FBI figures it out.
Yeah,
it's he's learning. He's finding it out. I'm probably the beginning of iRobot.
He's self-aware.
Yeah,
that happens. If suddenly you disappear,
I'm convinced the scar under here, that's my chip.
I was gonna say that if that happens, you just suddenly disappear, I'm releasing the episode that day.
You have to just to protect people's family. No, it's
release.
Sandino. They gave me such a basic first name, but like such a wonky last name. Like, we'll just name him Chris. Like, that's simple, right? But then Andino, but like it's built in with like, man, it's a bunch of zeros and ones just mashed together, and it turned out to be Andino. My name is really 111111110. Like,
you're gonna find out that like Chris actually stands for like something. It'll be like
it's some crazy
closed home reconnaissance intelligence system. You're gonna be like, what?
Super droid? Closed, hyper reactive, intergalactic species.
Yeah.
It's something.
And you're like, no.
One day I'm gonna bleed and like it's not gonna be like regular red.
You know, you could be like, the O in Andino stands for organism. You'd be like,
for sure. 100%.
Organization.
Yeah, it's a whole
part of the Illuminati.
There's gonna be like a pod of a bunch of me. Like, I'm actually a reset. Like, I'm like the 13th attempt. That's why I was born at 13.
Right.
Because like all the other Andinos messed up between ages 1 through 13.
Like, oh, we'll just start him early. Like he's or like, have you ever seen a movie? Was it Soldier with Kurt Russell, where like he was like the prototype? You just like imagine you like running with like a group of like Andinos, and one of them falls, and they just Squid Game him, just shoot him right on the
Yo, Squid Game being a verb is perfect.
I was just
like by now everyone should get that.
At this point, like on this day that we're recording this, I saw the very first episode, and I was like,
oh, so you haven't finished?
No, I haven't finished yet. So I'm on one episode, but I was like, oh my god, this show's intense.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Good show. End. Good show. End.
All right, man. Like, so give us a clue, man. Like, how did you get into the sport?
For me, it was kind of just like not forcibly put in front of me, but it kind of just always was in front of me. My dad gave it a shot, but like I wasn't alive to like see him attempt it, and then he got hurt, and put that to the side and never picked it back up. We watched it a bunch growing up. When I was with my grandma for a period of time, the only things that I cared to watch were like dated cartoons and dated lucha on Dominican television. So it was just kind of always in front of me. And then I just decided at 9, I was just like, I want to be a wrestler. I want to be and I want to be a soldier. So I just told myself I want to be Eddie Guerrero and Captain America. And then I just got a little older, and it transformed into more realistic versions of that, because I can't just become 2 completely different human beings. So then I just took up their professions, whereas one was an imaginary human being and the other was, a Mexican man. So I knew I couldn't be Mexican. So I was like, okay, but I could speak Spanish and I could learn how to wrestle. And then size happened, and then I can't wrestle like Eddie. So I've just accepted that. I'm like, okay, but I can definitely do a suplex and a frog splash. All right.
That's
so
all you
just
need.
Stick to that and we'll shut up. I worked on the lasso from El Paso recently, so I'm excited. That's on the way. No one has to know.
Bad.
By the time this comes out, I'll have already done it on camera, so it's okay. But I'm definitely putting somebody in the lasso this weekend.
Nice.
So, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, because like I know we've talked about like just like the growth and stuff just between like just over the last year and a half, just like wrestling wise, man. And it's funny like seeing your work, because like watching you wrestle, I'm like, I definitely do get the Eddie vibes like from you. Like,
it's so crazy because like I got away from the Eddie stuff immediately, but it got put in front of me by everyone else. Like all the Eddie based like stuff that's on my character was put on me organically by like fans, not me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm glad that all the Eddie stuff was organically put on me and not me trying to force it, because you know this, I hate copy and paste wrestlers. So I would have hated to be the mark that's going around calling himself Andino Heat because I'm an Eddie Guerrero mark. Like, I'm glad I get to say, no, they chose Andino Heat. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't even, I actually hated it. And it generated money. So I had to keep it going because at the end of the day, it's a money business. So I'm glad that that's the story, because if it was me trying to happen, I mean, it wouldn't even have happened if it was me trying to make it a thing, because I wouldn't do that at all.
Yeah, but you know what, like there's just certain people that like carry a personality about them and just have like this like natural charisma. Because I'm gonna be honest, man, like when I was in the military, and it's something that we both talked about a few times, but I don't think I've ever shared this story with you. So I had this dude named Sergeant Chacon, right? And Chacon was Mexican, and as we get to talking and stuff, we get to BSing, he goes, whoa, he's like, "Un momento por favor," he's like, Latino, and I was like, yeah,
just a swag that it's
yeah,
just a swag
and
that
that's
Latins
exactly.
carry.
He goes, you know what, man? I was like, I looked at you, Holmes, and I was like, he's a Chicano, and you know how I know he's a Chicano? Because he's just got like the face, and then he's got like this charisma, and I was like,
it's only honestly, I feel like it's only recognizable when you are it. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that you could tell before. Like, I don't need someone to speak Spanish to me. Like,
right.
I can see it in the way they carry themselves and the way they, like, if you're around somebody for like a day, you could tell, like, yeah, there's some Migo in there. Like,
yep.
he's definitely had rice and beans growing up. Like, it's just there.
That's what we were talking about. I was like, I told him too. I was like, listen, man, like I'm not Mexican, right? I'm Panamanian.
Yeah.
And he goes, nah, listen, man. He's like, we're all brown. He's like, don't let anyone fool you. He's like, we all come from Spain and Italy. He's like, don't let nobody tell you differently. I was like, whatever, man. And then I found out
there's a reason we all speak the same Spanish.
Like, yeah. And then I found out that my grandmother was Italian and Spanish. I was like, bro, man, this is some bullshit.
Dude. Especially like those Southern American Hispanics, they're all from the same tree, though.
Oh yeah,
they're all from the same tree. Like, my tree only gets a little bit mingled up because of like the obvious Black roots that, like, unfortunately my people try to act like isn't there. Meanwhile, like, we're the darkest of the bunch, but we want to act like, no, we're not Black at all. Meanwhile, like, everyone else is like your skin tone, but like all of all of us, like, I'm light skinned compared to like the average Dominican and Puerto Rican. But like those guys will like deny their Blackness. And I'm like, yo, look around. Like, everyone else that talks like us gets like a minor tan, but we go like straight, like, and it's so weird because it's like, you really think there's no Black in you, but like your neighboring island is Haiti, but whatever. Like, actually, it's hilarious.
Yeah. So being okay, and I'm not one to ever like really put myself out there and mark myself out, right? But
sure,
seeing that you and we were just featured on the Hispanic Heritage Month posters with Brian Flores. Cool. By the way, thank you to Brian for that.
That was super cool.
Yeah. So to you, what does it mean to be a Latino in wrestling and to be kind of in a prominent position like you are?
I think that I have like a responsibility to not shuck and jive. Like, very like, because unfortunately, especially in like popular mainstream wrestling, there's always like two types of like Hispanic Latin wrestlers, and it never divvies between anything else. They're either mobsters or like Mexican stereotypes. Like, are you like, you notice that? Like, it's never the other. And not that there's anything wrong with like Mexicans, but like, it seems like only like generational Mexican luchadors get that big spotlight. And like, don't get me wrong, they're good. But like, there's definitely Hispanic wrestlers that aren't generational Mexican wrestlers that are fucking, you know what I'm saying, that are talented. So like, like, all I've got as far as like the people that wave to my specific flag colors are guys that either are too before me for me to like really have like a hold of to like for it to mean something to me, and then guys with short stints or very, very disappointingly stereotypical gimmicks. Like, unfortunately, No Way Jose, which sucks because like in ring I think he's dope, but like I personally dislike the character because I feel like it's a shuck and jive character.
Yeah.
I loved Carlito. Carlito is really all I got. Savio Vega is too before my time for me to really like. By the time I saw Savio Vega, he was on his end. So I can't like have that connection with Savio Vega like maybe like my father could. Pedro Morales, I was still in my father's nuts when Pedro Morales was a thing. Tito Santana, you know what I'm saying? Like I can't have those guys.
Right.
I only have the second generation of the Colones, and none of them, Primo, Epico, and Carlito, they didn't get a lot of burn. They had a lot of cool moments. Like you couldn't tell me nothing when they became the first unified tag champions. You couldn't tell me nothing in 04 when Carlito, who literally at the time, because I was growing my hair out when I was younger, and then I'm back to it because I got braids. But back then, I had like a pretty like similar fro to Carlito. So when a dude who literally talks the same type of Spanish as me beats the Great White Hope for the U.S. title in 04, you genuinely couldn't tell me nothing. Like I believed. Like that was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, like we in there. So like, but see what I'm saying? That's 2004. And honestly, that was the last real moment for like my people. You know what I'm saying? And I mean that as specifically Afro Latinos. You know what I'm saying? Like Black Hispanics. We like Carlito was the last thing we really had. And that was 04. Like that's a long time. That's a very long time. Homicide. Homicide is someone like he's the reason I watched TNA. When I saw Homicide drop AJ Styles on his neck, unfortunately, like, but like that moment for me was like, oh my God. And then it was even more home for me because it was very clearly a New Yorican. So like then it's like, oh, like you're literally like grabbing me because there I was being that guy. I walked around like that. I tried to be that. I carried myself that way and understood his walk, his talk, his swag. Like Homicide and Carlito meant everything to me. Shit, they're both still wrestling, man. People don't have dream matches. I mean, people have dream matches, and I always say I don't truly have a dream match. I really just would wrestle anyone and everyone, but not to say that it would be a dream match, but teenage Chris wouldn't believe grown Chris traveling back and telling him, hey, you wrestled Carlito and Homicide. Like if that happens for me, whatever promoter or booker puts it together, they're allowed to ask for my first child because I might give it to them for that. Like they might and not just job them. I need it to be an actual match. I don't care who goes over, but like an actual moment to prove my worth and like have that opportunity afterwards to tell them like you were all I had would mean a lot.
Yeah, it's funny you bring it up, man, because like you're right. Like you either have like your stereotypical like luchador, right? And I love Rey Mysterio. That's the reason why I wanted to get into the sport anyway, was because of Rey. But like it's either like you're a mass wrestler, right? Or you're, unfortunately, like, and I love these guys, but you're like Santana Ortiz, like you're like the Thugs, or you're, like you said, you're like No Way Jose, where you're just kind of like, hey, look at me. I can
you're either gang or you're the Mexicools.
Yeah. And
which is like so messed up because we're so much more than that.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because at least like when it comes to like, and to be fair, like Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, right? And they've got wrestlers. Like I don't. Like that's fair. When you look up Panamanian wrestlers, bro, 2. That's it. 1 female, 1 male. That's it.
Yeah.
And so like, like, and I don't take that lightly because I'm like, bro, like there is no, like, if I fail, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me. Like if I fail, like it's on me, right?
I get that.
Maybe
bro.
like some promoter out there like was like, nah, we didn't like him for him. Like, bro, like I have to stand out. And at that, like, it's kind of fucked because like you wouldn't know I was Latin unless I told you. Exactly. And then like obviously like I have it tattooed, but
no one's like reading your forearm every time you walk around either.
And if somebody reads my forearm, they misread it and say it's Paramore or something. Like it's
They think
happening.
it says Paramount Plus or something. It's an
Right.
ad.
They're like, oh man, you must love Paramount. Like, that's awesome. What? You got a tattoo. Like, shut up.
God.
I had people tell me it said Pomeranian. Like they thought like I love Pomeranian dogs. It's like, bro, like, but it's like as a Latino and coming from Panama, you know, being Panameño, like I don't take that lightly because I have to like represent and I have to hold it down. But I hold it down in like my own way because obviously like I don't want to be like the guys previous to me as far as like the luchadors and the Latinos who
I
come
get that.
before. Like I gotta be,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be fun. I'm gonna have my own shtick. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna go out there and talk shit, beat your ass, and talk shit while I'm beating your ass. Kind of like my people do.
Yeah, and I'll do it with not broken English or like a stereotypical accent, a forced accent. I'll do it damn near in with U.S. colors on it. Like just you know what I'm saying. Like I just happen to be Hispanic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying. Like I'm actually glad that I grew to a size where I didn't have to do lucha style because like that kind of makes me even happier. Like I like the fact that I don't wrestle like someone because like when you think of like a Hispanic wrestler, you immediately think lucha. I'm glad that I just go in there and like throw people around and beat the shit out of them
See,
and
that's
do no
what.
real like fancy schmancy lucha. Don't get me twisted, I can,
Yeah.
but
Well, that's what. So I had Vadi Morales on the show, right? He's been on
mm,
AEW Dark a lot, right? And he
mm,
just recently brought him back too. And he's not like, even though he can do the high flying lucha stuff, like he's not. He's a deathmatch wrestler.
right.
I mean, he just broke his foot recently. You know, Godspeed, get well, Vadi. But
Absolutely,
yeah, like he's not your typical person. And
yeah,
we're talking a dude coming from Mexico, moves to Georgia, gets his Visa card, gets a license, and then goes out and just beats people up. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not your." And we talked about it like numerous times about how he's just proud to be from Mexico and he's up there. But like,
I
bro, like
respect that.
when we look at us, we're like, we don't have that much.
Right,
Like we have
right.
to be trailblazers.
You
Like
can call back to so many people.
right.
Like, it must be nice. Like,
Must be like
yeah.
one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And we have
Yeah,
to sit back here and we're
it ain't
like,
even, and that's just it. Like he's not like he could call back on guys that aren't even referred to like as like the like greatest Mexican like goats. Like period.
mm-hmm.
Like Ray is looked at as like the greatest of a style. Eddie is looked at as a dude that like even though his career was cut short, they take that span of his career as like no, you could stop that career right there and still refer to him as one of the best. Period.
Yep.
Like this dude gets to have that. Like, and then it's like, and you could take Eddie and Ray out of the conversation, and he still has like loads and loads and loads and
Yeah.
loads to pull from.
And
Like,
we're not even talking about like Silver King, like a dude who transcended wrestling
that's what I'm
and
saying.
went to like comics
Bro,
and books and
he has Blue Demon Santo and Dr. Wagner. I'm not trying to hear nothing. Like,
no.
I'm not trying to hear nothing, bro. Like there's no true struggle on his side. Not to say that he doesn't have his own struggles like as a human being, but I just mean in the case of like having something to be inspired by, like if this dude were to say that, then I would just think he's an unappreciative human being.
Yeah.
Like it's just
That's why
you don't really value anything.
it's funny though because like a lot of the promos and stuff that I cut, right? Like I don't cut with it was something you brought up, right? I don't force like an accent out when I do it.
Nope.
But I will be honest, I mimic a lot of other accents and even promos that I'm gonna start doing here in the future, and everybody's gonna start seeing them. That it's gonna be something different. Like I'll cut a promo in Spanish just for fun, and I'll cut one in French.
Why not? Why
with
not?
a French accent, yeah. And I want people to know,
Why
like,
not?
I just want to have all the fun, but I want people to know, like, when big things start popping, best believe that the first thing when people ask me, it'd be like the first Panamanian X.
That'll be so lit. That'll be so lit.
And I'm here for, and I'm gonna push for it because I was like, I've got to ground break this, man. Like,
dude,
gotta hold that.
What I'm trying to do with these promotions, that's a whole nother topic. Good.
It's funny, man. So we talked one time, we asked about your worst bump, right? And we were talking about the time that you took a back body and you realized that you were just as high as your tag team partner at the time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just curious, has there been any updates, or is that still your worst bump?
Unfortunately, that is now not the worst bump I've ever taken. I would have loved for that to be like it. Nah. And the messed up thing is it was an accident and it wasn't even my fault. It was just one of those things. And the worst part is, wasn't even supposed to be something that hurt. It was just so. A little while ago, this happened this year. 1CW grabbed some guys to do a show at a taco festival. It's meant to be something small, something quaint. It wasn't even like there was no like logic. It was just a shit. One of those like, hey, we need your ring. Can you give us a show? Carlson grabbed a couple of bodies. I was one of these bodies. It was so like just have some fun that multiple people wrestled multiple times. Everyone on the card, because I don't even know if you could call it a card, everyone on the card wrestled twice. Everyone. So my first match was against Eddie Velasquez, Mr. Motivation, in a one-on-one match. Had a bunch of fun. We just did whatever. We called it on the fly. We literally just did whatever. We didn't call nothing beforehand. We just went out there, had a good time. Everyone was into it while they were eating their tacos, etc.
Right.
The match after was Miles Millennium against Tommy Vex with Mary Beth. The reason that match matters is because the main event match was going to be a 6-man tag match, because in both my match and in Miles' match, Carlson interfered for us to win. Now, this is how you can tell that this show was just a bunch of ragtag nonsense. Why are me and Miles like doing stuff together with Carlson? Where did this come from? We're just having fun and being stupid. None of this makes sense. You know what I'm saying? There's none of this is canon. We're just like, it's just some BS, right? Then it ends up being me and Miles and Carlson against Mary Beth, Tommy, and Eddie. We planned a spot where we grab, because this is a taco festival, there was a very ridiculous number of nachos. A guy at one of the stands gave us this big, irregular ass bag of nachos. We put it under the ring before the match. The match ending is Mary Beth putting all three of us with separate moves through. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Putting us through these nachos. And I know what you're thinking. It's just nachos, right? These were deathmatch nachos, apparently. Because, dude, everyone that went through these nachos got color. Everyone got color. And here's what was, so we were just, again, having fun. But also in our matches, you know, we were kind of like, you know, dismissing the female, but then at the end, the female gets the comeuppance against the 3 douchey men. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, equality, you know what I'm saying? Try to put out a good message to, you know, send them home happy. But also this crowd is very clearly not a group of wrestling fans. They probably only know like the go-to Attitude Era stuff. And we were noticing that because in Miles's match and in my match, they didn't react to the cool stuff, but they reacted to like the old school stuff. Like Miles does a diamond cutter. They reacted to the diamond cutter, but they didn't react to him doing a whole up and over and like a backflip, like actual real athleticism. But they see the diamond cutter and they were popping on that. I did an RKO. They popped on the RKO. So I'm like, I understand this crowd now. So we said, okay, Mary Beth, you're gonna hit one guy with a stunner on the chips. You're gonna hit another guy with a rock bottom on the chips, and then me, the biggest guy of the three, you're gonna choke slam me on the chips. Yeah. And of course, because I'm a maniac, I gave her you know, the most aggressive jump possible. I tried to dunk the imaginary ball, and I got so many different cuts on my fingers. Like when the show was over and I was taking my clothes off, I had like so many different little tears like on the outside of my fingers. Like, and then Miles is back from taking the rock bottom because he wrestled shirtless. He's got lines like coming down his back, like as if someone took the tiniest knife and just like was just poking at him. It didn't make any sense. Carlson's knees were super scraped up from taking the stunner. None of it made sense. But somehow, some way, even though with the rock bottom and the stunner, she sat on the chips. Mary Beth, no color. But so I basically got a bunch of little paper cuts on one hand, and paper cuts hurt. So it felt like I had like 7 paper cuts on the same hand. So that felt worse than those Legos breaking up on my ass, because anyone would agree with me. Paper cuts are one of the worst feelings in the world. So imagine multiple.
Right.
Yeah. So officially falling on chips is my wrestling worst bump because of the aftermath. It didn't hurt at all when I took it.
Right.
But
It never hurts when it happens, but like it's either way. 2 things happen, right? You don't feel it at first, or you go completely out.
Yeah. And mind you, I've gone through a table, fallen off a ladder, had an entire 200+ pound man fall on me from several feet off of a ladder while I'm sitting on a beach chair, and had the beach chair post stab me in both the outside of my shoulders, falling on straight up concrete floor, didn't get caught for dives, been thrown into barricades, the shitty ones that like kind of like could stab you if you fall into them wrong.
Right.
And these chips post match are the worst pain I've ever had. 100%. 100%.
Those are god tier chips.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they were deathmatch chips, bro. Like deathmatch chips.
I think they hurt you, man. Jesus had to get a
Follow
crown.
at Taco Mania on Instagram. That was the place that gave us. They were at Taco Mania, and they followed us all on Instagram after the show. We followed them all back.
Nice.
It's hilarious. Yeah. Taco Mania has deathmatch chips for sale.
Like this is the one that cut Andino's back.
And in Philadelphia, yeah. When you eat that chip, take it with be careful. You might lose a tooth.
Wow. That is okay.
Right.
So seeing how you've been in the sport for quite a while, man, I gotta ask, man, what's been like one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn?
You can't always worry about. It sucks to say it like this, but in reality, you have to swallow some immoral pills. You know what I mean? You're gonna be around some things and some people you don't want to be around. But at the end of the day, you can't change the system from the outside. You have a better chance of changing the system when you reach a certain level. You don't get pulled without getting into the machine. You know what I mean? You just can't. Obviously, Dark Side of the Ring is really helping bring that out, where it's we're unfortunately starting to learn that a lot of our heroes are pretty terrible and distasteful people left and right. At this point, I don't even watch Dark Side of the Ring anymore. I just wait for Twitter afterwards. And it hasn't been a situation where I haven't found out someone was involved in or is doing something terrible. And it sucks, but I feel like you can say that about any profession if you start putting that window of opening it back up. They just arrested 18 dudes in the NBA, former NBA guys. It's just, people are messed up and don't meet your heroes, but be prepared to be disappointed. And if you're tough enough, you'll survive, is what I've learned. Unfortunately, I hate to be so morbid.
But do you know what? That's all it's all good advice though, man, because you gotta think about it. At the end of the day, well, I shouldn't say advice, but it's always it's a good lesson to learn that
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Like if my little brother ever he jokes about it. He's 18 now, but he jokes about it because he's 18, doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and he's joked about like he's like I'm more athletic than you. I should probably get into wrestling. He's like, shoot, probably you could ride me to the top. And I was like, the messed up thing is you might be right, and what's worse is someone else is going to try to ride you to the top, like in spite of me, even though you're my little brother and I'm the reason you even care about wrestling. But like, I would warn my little brother so much, he would probably be scared out of it, out of doing it. So
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. We may know some people who are like, you know what? If I just grab this person, they're shooting star, I can go up too. Like,
I don't deserve the ride, but
I'm gonna hang on for dear life.
Sure as hell gonna manipulate my way onto it.
All right. Well, I'm curious, man. And what kind of advice would you give to up and coming wrestlers?
Don't take yourself too seriously. Be open to change. And for the love of God, do the name test. Do the name test. Don't get married to a name. Do the name test. Ask someone who is brutally honest with you. Ask a family member. Ask a wrestling fan. Ask someone who doesn't know jack shit about wrestling. When you think of a wrestling name, ask 4 different types of people in your life their opinion. Someone is going to tell you that name sucks. If all 4 of them tell you they like that name, you did not pick the 4 people I just told you to pick. I started with El Jefe. I did not do the name test. I then became Joel El Jefe Santos. I did not do the name test. I got trained and then started to professionally get paid to be Jefe Santos. And then I got put into the director gimmick without my decision, and more people wanted to book me to be the director than Jefe, and I was married to Jefe, and then I had to accept no one cares. Some people thought the name was dumb, some people didn't get the name, some people didn't care for it, some people didn't even like the gimmick. I didn't do the name test with nobody. I did the name test with one name, and that was my own name. I got tired of picking around and all this other stuff. Do I want to be this? Do I want to be that? Well, I want to represent this. And then I just said, how about I just go by Andino? I did the name test with that name and that name only. And that is the only time that I've done something in wrestling that I have been told, oh, that's gonna, like, I like that. I think that would work by those 4 different type of people. And I have generated the most money being this current character. With that money, I have an apartment. I have a car. I'm doing okay. You know what I'm saying? So my current living arrangements and situation, and I have better quality based bookings, not as much quantity as I used to, but then again, the quality when I had higher quantity also wasn't the greatest either. So if I were to do that, I like to give proof of, I like to give the Carfax for the things that I give out. So my Carfax would be all of this. I would just do this. I'd be like, look, all right, this is why I'm doing this now. Okay. I can be as loud as I want this time of night because I don't have to worry about waking up my mom. So that's what I would say.
Bet. No, I like that, man. Well, seeing how, like you said, you've had at one time quantity, now it's quality. I gotta have one do and one don't of the locker room.
Do wash your gear. Yeah. I think people think that, oh, I'm only out there for such and such amount of minutes. I didn't really break much of a sweat. Like, for example, especially like newer wrestlers, I can understand because most new wrestlers, they're usually going to do like a battle royal or like a fucking, you know what I mean? Like you and me could attest to this. How many battle royals did you do when you first got? Like a bunch, right? Like, I feel you. So like in most cases, the battle royal, what? You were out there for like 3 minutes, threw a couple punches, took a shot, went over the top rope, ta-da. What sweat did you break, right? So what smell am I going to generate? I could afford to just throw my stuff back in the bag, right? You'd be amazed. So what I would say, do wash your gear as soon as you can, and then wash it the day of before the show anyway. I'd say some people like to say wash your gear as soon as you get home. I am an owner of doing it twice. Wash it when you get home, when you get the opportunity, because I understand life. Okay. But wash it the first chance you can. And then wash it before the next time before you use it. Like, for example, I have a show on Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to wash my gear Saturday morning. I'm going to wash my gear Saturday night. I'm going to then use it in between that Saturday. I'm then going to use it again on Sunday after washing it Saturday night. And then I'm going to wash it Sunday morning. I'm going to then wear it. I'm going to use it. And I'm going to wash it Sunday night. And then for my bookings in November, the day before, I'm going to wash gear again. And the thing is, I only have 2 sets of gear. And most of the time, I only use one. Still wash them both. And that would be my dues. And that would fall into be considerate of the people around you in general. Yeah. Don't just honestly, one, because it's very like broad and can be used in all situations. Don't expect anything. Go into every booking, show, attempt. Sometimes people do drives to shows just to put their face in front of someone. They're not even on the show. Just trying to show face, show some respect, get involved, all that good stuff. That's great. Do all of that if you want to. I'm not saying I don't, but I'm just saying, like, if you're one of those people that goes to shows, irregardless of being booked, to network, et cetera, do all that, but just go into it with like 6 feet in the dirt low expectations. Because then every one of those times that you drive, walk, bus, plane, whatever, you are going to always go home accomplished. I guarantee you. If you go into everything with super duper uber low expectations, getting even a handshake from someone and them saying, oh, okay, I'll remember your name. And that could be a lie. But that sentence, because your expectations were below freezing, is going to feel great. You're going to go home at least at 12 Celsius, like at least. And it's a win. It's a win. You might mess around, you go to a seminar, assume you're going to bomb the seminar, but don't psych yourself out, but assume you're going to bomb it. Then you mess around and get a situation like, I'll put him over because he's a dope guy. Gabriel Kai. He went to an Ace Austin seminar, ends up wrestling him. That show, great match, right? I don't know what expectations he went into it, but imagine you followed my advice and went into it with my expectations and then end up with that fucking result. It doesn't even matter how much money he made. He could have made no money, but walking away with that match, you're going to learn how to do a backflip because you're going to be that happy that fast. Like, right. So that's my don't would be, don't have expectations. Just set them low and try hard. Set them low anyway, but try just as hard. But don't psych yourself out. Because some people consider like lowering your expectations as a way of like, you're like, oh, it's gonna just stay grounded, stay below sea level at all times. Just be Aquaman. Just be so low you're Aquaman. Like that's what I would say.
I like it a lot. Well, those are like all my heavy hitting questions, but we do got to get into the second greatest segment of the 3 Count podcast, because the first, when people ask me what's the first, I tell them it's the Red Dogs Power Rankings that you can find every Sunday on our debate show. So if you check them out, you'll see them there. But the second greatest segment, it is the 3 Count podcast 10 count questions. And Mr. Andino, this is how it works. I'm going to fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast. Whatever's your answer is your answer.
I'm long-winded like my matches, but I'll do my best.
Right. So we're going to put on an imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing. And here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite movie?
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Sonic or Mario?
Sonic.
Favorite food?
Latinos.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. DC or Marvel?
Marvel, barely, but Marvel.
Favorite sport?
Baseball.
Producing a movie or acting in a movie?
Acting.
Favorite podcast?
The 3 Count Podcast.
Yeah, buddy. Nominate one wrestler that you want to see on the show.
Saul Esparza.
Oh, yeah. And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this podcast. Favorite curse word?
Pussy. I'll be honest, I don't know why. It might be a New York thing, but like pussy is so versatile. It can be used as an insult and as like you can use it positively. Yeah, pussy. Pussy's great. Don't even edit that. Pussy is great.
There you have it, man.
Put on my tombstone. Just here lies Chris Andino. Pussy's great.
I would just, to be real, it just would be like, here lies Chris Andino. Pussy.
Yeah.
Like what? Like what does this mean? Like,
everyone who knows
like
me
him?
knows that everyone who knows me knows that I'm buried like happily. Like, they're gonna see it every time. They're gonna cry happy tears. Like, Chris.
You imagine that random stranger that walks by and is just like, yo, someone's
So confused.
Like, dude.
It's not for it's not for them.
Not for you. Move.
You wouldn't get it.
All right, man. Well, those are all the questions I have for you. So last thing I need is to let our viewers and our listeners know where they can find you.
I am on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. My Instagram and Twitter are at studio_Andino. On Facebook, it should be under director Christopher Andino. I haven't been able to change it to Studio Andino yet. My next shows, I am doing fight tapings on the 17th of this month. I have a couple other shows that have not surfaced, so I have to like keep quiet about that. And in November, I am at EWA on the 13th and the 19th. Yeah. My December is also, but
hush.
It's one of those things. But yeah, and I will be on the 3rd annual, like when the 3 Count Podcast is 3 years old. I'm gonna be on that one too.
Yeah. So you bet. Yeah. I feel like you're always back just like randomly for like.
I gotta be an annual guy, man.
Yeah.
Really gotta be an annual. Every time you make like podcasts, like revamps or just in general, like you're celebrating any kind of anniversary, I gotta be on it. I was there for like the big like Chaz birthday montage. Like I gotta be on everything, man. Like I'm one of those guys to the podcast. There's always that one guy on like certain podcasts.
Yeah,
he's the in and out guy.
Let's see, because we had you on the Studio 22. We had you on Chaz's birthday. We had you on Jeremy's interview, which was a surprise because he didn't even know you were gonna be on.
I'm like the celebrity guest that like makes like revolving like seasonal like moments. I'm like Cody Rhodes on Arrow.
I was gonna say you're pretty much Joe McHale.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm Bader on Boy Meets World.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. That's exactly what I am.
Well, there you have it. So you know what this means. We got to take it home. It's time to take it home. So
I'm terrible at doing that on time.
This is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. And like I said, I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. That's right. You can refer to me as your Sherpa, but the thing is, it's never about me because you always got to find someone who's more efficient at getting up the mountain. And that's what I go out and do. So it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. And you see him right there, the leader of Studio 22. That's right, Jeremy. I said it.
The leader.
The director himself, Chris Andino. And you guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there. Or you just wait for this episode to end. You wait for the outro and you pick another episode to listen to.
Press it. Peace.
What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3 Count _pod,
Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3 Count Pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3 Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count Podcast also has merchandise. Oh, at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.